You have a plan for getting out?
Destiny.
What is Andor's purpose? Chapter 1, Pícaro Uno. Spoilers for Andor, Les Miserables, the original Star Wars film A New Hope, in its prologue, 2016's Rogue One. Rogue One debuts Andor meeting Tivik. He confirms the Death Star superweapon exists, and then he shoots him. To deprive Imperial torturers of Tivik is necessary, and it's merciful. Andor is the foil to protagonist Jyn Erso. In writing vocab, that means that he contrasts with her to highlight her features. She doesn't share his readiness to sacrifice, but they inspire each other to grow as people. She motivates him not to shoot her dad in the head, so he motivates her into a suicide mission to steal her dad's Death Star plans, so she motivates him to power past a crippling injury and save her. Well, just for long enough to DM the Attentive 4 PC small group WhatsApp. Rogue One is a simple, self-contained story. Everybody sacrifices their lives to progress the heist one step, except Baze, who sacrifices his life to farm aura. Every character was created for a single purpose. They fulfilled it. And now the rebellion has a new hope.
That's it! We did it!
We did it!
Wait, Arahamat. I'm receiving a transmission from the year 2018, and they're saying that Disney announced a prequel show to the prequel movie?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
I made the characters and themes of Rogue One sound a lot deeper than they turned out in practice. The production was such a mess that they had to parachute Tony Gilroy in to save the whole project, and half the cast is squandered anyway. Andor, like Melshi and Draven and Lados, is a prop. They're little army men ready for play straight out of the packaging. Don't get me wrong, Rogue One is a blast, but that's because it has top-notch set pieces and action. Television as a format trades off the budget for all that CGI and staging to spend more time with the characters. Therefore, a TV show about Andor would seem to completely misunderstand his purpose. In the 4 years after Rogue One, Star Wars fans were spoiled rotten with good television. The miraculous homestretch glow-up of Rebels, the global phenomenon of The Mandalorian, and the long-awaited finale to the Clone Wars. With big names on the horizon like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor was eclipsed, an ugly duckling in the Lucasfilm lineup.
Season 2 is the juggernaut.
Could Disney answer, what is Andor's purpose? Chapter 2, Dos Lados. The live-action timeline needed a mature, grounded take on the era of rebellion. The main cast of Rogue One has one active rebel, Cassian. The main cast of A New Hope has one active rebel, Leia. I'm sure the 14-year-old Firebrand's misadventures at the Model United Hapens would have popped off. But Disney decided that the best way to bridge from a good movie to an uncertain new property was by reuniting the excellent Diego Luna with Tony Gilroy. This would be his chance to realize his own vision from the get-go. And what a vision it was. For so long, Star Wars has been chasing the highs of super-powered laser blade monks and supernatural Russian witches and super-hot linguist droids and super soldier Iron Man ethno-nationalists who Dave Filoni is strangely attached to. And we finally get a show that's just about a guy. Kind of a dirtbag, really, and he's more hit or miss than hit after hit. He doesn't stop the violence on Ferrix or Gorman, and he doesn't get a single shot off at Dedra in either situation, despite the fact that in both cases she's the imp in charge and the biggest threat to Axis. He frees Loniardo under the weight of moral conflict, bagging neither kills nor saves. Andor can sometimes save a soul or two. but he rarely sticks it to the Empire in any lasting way. He's just another foot soldier. A good one, a capable spy, but a grunt. And just as he's a supporting character in his movie, Andor makes up only a fraction of Andor's screen time. The silken glove of Mon Mothma is raised alongside the iron fist of Saw Gerrera. Luthen recruits Cassian, and then Valencinta and Cassian pull off a heist, and then Clea charges them to hunt down and murder Cassian. All these brilliant storylines are lined up in opposition to the Imperial Security Bureau. Partagaz runs phenomenal scenes chock full of the good stuff about institutions that Tony Gilroy loves to get into, and his protege Dedra connives to capture Axis in their galactic battle of wits. Andor's first season fills out all the stock roles of a John le Carre spy thriller to massive acclaim. Except, there's also this one loser who doesn't matter, and everybody keeps telling him to stay out of it, especially when he starts stalking a woman, and every time he tries to do something, he stuffs it up and... Okay, hold on. What is Syril's purpose? Chapter 3. Tres Familias. Put simply, he's Andor's four. Their communities are cogs in the Empire. Morlana creates, and Ferrix recycles. Both men are connected to crime. Uncle Harlow's a crook, and Andor is a thief handy with a blaster. Their niche is in attention to detail. Clem has taught Cassian what stuff is worth grabbing and how to work with it. And Syril is
a good deputy inspector. That was very good. I solved a double murder and found the killer in 2 days.
This obsessiveness, this affinity for their community's strength, springs from their matua. Andor is usually taken as a synonym for Cassian. But Andor is Marva Andor and Clem Andor just as much as Cassian Andor. The entire 2-episode climax of the first season is caused entirely by Marva's death. Her choice of message reshapes galactic history once she's gone, just like Bix's will. Marva vindicates Luthen's claim. If you're going to die anyway, to the benefit of nobody, become another Clem. Why not rebel while you still can? The Andors are the only family of note in Andor. The Mothmas play out their high society drama, which in turn is nothing like Syril's and Cassian's out on the rim. They both had their dads torn away. They were both raised by assertive single mothers. Syril actor Kyle Sola explains,
Yeah, 100%. I had wound up working out my own story, and then I started collaborating with Catherine Hunter about it as well. We had kind of figured out the same thing, that he had left really early on in a real acrimonious, horrible way. There was a real launch pad for our Edie then parent Syril, which is by being wronged. And her anger and grief and disappointment and frustration of him leaving just got filtered into Syril. Growing up without a father, that's a whole level of Jungian psychology that we could dive into. That's another podcast-length interview. But it's heavy, and that absence definitely drives Syril as much as the over-dominating maternal influence.
Clem's killing traumatizes the Andors, but it pushes them together. Cyril's not a mirror. Their upbringings have hardened them in opposite directions. Edie's cruelty leaves him starving for praise he never received at home.
Are you on drugs? Why don't you ever call me back? When are you gonna get married, son? Isn't it about time you settle down and got yourself a wife, and got yourself a house, and got a kid, and got a car, and got a dog, and got a lawnmower, and got a nice picket fence?
He's hunting for a superior's recognition. He wants to slot into a hierarchy, and he has a Stannis-esque complex about order. Andor just keeps his head down and sticks to the salvager community his parents raised him to belong amongst. Andor is street smart, where Syril can be just downright stupid at times. The Andors have known when to fold them since Kenari. Syril never learned. But Andor can hack the heat because he's actually been forced to live on the edge in real danger from a young age. And Syril can't. His childhood exposure therapy was taking little army men out of their packaging. Again and again he freezes. Syril is tucked away safely during a smooth and uncontested heist, and what a festive evening, and he freaks out anyway. Is this post-traumatic stress disorder from reckoning, from coming so close to his personal devil and then witnessing all hell break loose? Or is his tikanga matatika so rigid that even a sting operation makes him feel like a filthy felon? Andor is hit or miss, but he isn't miss and or miss. He steps up to the plate throughout the show. There's Aldani and Narkina 5 and the Mon Mothma evac, even rescuing Bix on Ferrix and a Kotori on Mineral, and Syril is just there every time. he doesn't succeed, doesn't come close. The only win he chalks up for the Empire across the entire season is saving Dedra, although we all owe him a pint for getting Tim killed. So none of the first 19 episodes of the show answer my question. What is Syril's purpose? Chapter 4, Cuatro de Mayo. Andor finally engages the question in Season 2, Episode 8.
Who are you?
What if I told you that...
My title isn't a spoiler.
No, that's not possible. The Jedi would be aware of it.
You must...
I don't believe you.
I described the Red Wedding, the television moment of the 21st century. That, for instance, would be a spoiler. But the Red Wedding didn't hit just by subverting expectations. The Red Wedding was heartbreaking. It spoke to the themes of its story so powerfully about the consequences of war and politics, the fragility of young life, and the senselessness of vengeance. The Red Wedding wasn't just a surprise, it was a shock. So let me move on from the Red Wedding, without spoiling it, to an event that cannot be spoiled. Andor's second season inflicts a Red Wedding moment that will not surprise anybody in the Kaimata Kitaki. You're warned from the get-go that things are gonna get bad. Mad Men marketing genocide introduce an urgency that thrums throughout Dedra's scenes. The Empire needs the Kalkite on Gorman, and they will do anything to get it. Planet-killing power is non-negotiable.
We have to get the Kalkite, and there is this incredible amount of how do we get the Kalkite? How do we get the take the planet, take the planet, the inhabitants, whatever. It's about the Kalkite.
Can the locals stop them? The fact that the episode hits as hard as it does is what makes it a Wikitoria. Who Are You iterates on peak television without feeling the need to imitate. Andor doesn't fall back on cheap twists. Okay, it does sometimes, but at its best, Andor isn't a rug pull mystery box show. Andor wants to shock you, really make you feel what happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And you do. Star Wars hasn't been that shocking in film or show or book or game since 1980. 1980! And that was a moment in the movie theatre just before fans spilled out into the lights of the lobby to gabble excitedly about if he was telling the truth. When I say Andor's Red Wedding moment, I mean 50 minutes of excellence bursting into your living room, slamming you in the guts, and leaving you in the silence with your tears. Who Are You is Andor's demonstration that it deserves acclaim as a new Game of Thrones where anybody can die and no viewer will forget the reaction. And it's more than that. Who Are You is a clarifying moment, a realization that Andor aspires to spark something more than popcorn in the microwave and water cooler conversations. Andor has earned the strange compliment of being nothing like the last 40 years of Star Wars. The show could have ended here, and for the characters of Who Are You, I would be entirely content. And that's especially striking, because Who Are You belongs to the weaker season. What is Andor Season 2's purpose? Chapter 5, Cinco, Emocionan, Demasiado. Andor was planned for 5 seasons and wound up with 2.
Excellent. Andor Season 2 is a complete success. My God, what were the next 65 episodes? I'm glad you asked. Oh. A flyer hotshot rookie knock on rebels playing hooky, snatch a superstar destroyer out of Kuat Sky, cooks and spice in a space camper, Rick the vote in space New Hampshire, flag us and his family and tell him lies, corrupt a teen from the Lothal scene, expose a Gunga mastermind, check out that leaf from skiing, find a therapist for Bix, ring and life day on Fabrics, search clubs to discover something that doesn't exist. Oh, replace Tacoma with someone's refinal guile, undercover shows these all its Bothans, find the Death Star 2, engineer a back to coup, bomb and blue Sun Tzu, and a ship full of Rhydonium like a stand against uranium.
You know what? I'll just email you a PDF or something.
If you don't have the time, then whenever you get around to it.
The first, if you forgive the first 2 episodes' deficiencies, fires on all cylinders. The second often doesn't seem to know its own purpose. It's squeezing in snapshots of so many different lives across a 4-year period. The series fragments from extremely tight cause and effect to a series of impressions, and the misfire rate climbs dramatically. To name a few, the Maya Pay Brigade ties together a bunch of good ideas into a Rat King stuff-up. Every character feels the same, shallow and stupid. Sinter and Gorse deaths were executed so abruptly that the former elicited a "come on, really?" and the latter genuinely made me wonder if Bix was just dreaming again. Killing off a rando like Gorse to develop Bix, that's enough. Killing off someone as major as Sinter 20 minutes after a touching reunion just to tee Val up for a monologue, that's Oatemaka. Yet Coruscant turns into free parking in a season that also de-emphasizes the constant danger of rebellion. Look to Andor's sudden arrest and announcement to see how unpredictability can feel earned and impactful. And Mon gets to fly away unimpeded right after delivering a speech which, in a show with so many fantastic monologues, what is this supposed to make me feel? How does this demonstrate there's more to Mon than met the eye? This came straight out of the playbook of an ineffectual public persona. The show's threatening, tense atmosphere, which lent so much weight to its characters' choices, was in real danger. And Who Are You faced stiff competition. In a show full of rhymes and reprises, Rick's Road clearly earns the direct comparison, as both episodes depict an important community gathering that degenerates into a massacre. Rick's Road has fantastic flourishes. The gore anthem is moving. But the Honor Guard band speeding up gives me chills every time. Rick's Road constantly contrasts the Main Street fanfare with the cat and mouse game behind the scenes, and both are electric. Who Are You stars are set on their predictable courses of action, taking dangerously long to realize what's happening. If Rick's Road is the culmination of Season 1's rising tensions, then why is Who Are You the centerpiece and magnum opus of Season 2? If Ferrix is a community who can no longer bear imperial oppression, what is Gorman's purpose? Chapter 6. Plan de Seis Pasos. Gorman was created as companion lore to 1993's cult classic Kemoatia X-Wing, as the site of Grand Moff Tarkin landing a shuttle on protesters. Both X-Wing and Rebels concur that Gorman deaths push Mon Mothma out of the Senate and into delivering revolutionary speeches. Andor clarifies that this Tarkin massacre happened amidst the messy transition from Republic to Empire, just like the clone shootings on Ferrix that claimed Clem Andor's life. The Season 1 finale revealed that violence was here to stay, and worse. So too does Season 2 promise horrors worse than crushing hundreds of protesters. On the radio at the end of the beginning, we hear of hundreds of Gore dead in the plaza already.
As I say these words, hundreds of murdered Gorman lay dead in Famo Plaza.
History is repeating itself. Every episode it becomes clearer that Saul was right.
Krieger's a separatist.
This way! Come on! Let's go!
My pay's a neo-Republican. For the rebellion.
Who's rebelling?
What are you suggesting?
Suggesting? I apologize. I don't mean to sound like...
The Gorman Front.
Silence! Mo fix skube na bibonan simnash godalo.
The Partisan Alliance. Sectorist.
They just need to lop off the power cable and the South Island will sail into the distance on their own, quite happy.
Human cultists. Galaxy partitionist.
The wildcard idea, not actually all that wildcard, to permanently split the Empire.
They're lost! All of them, lost!
The Gorman Front is hopeless.
Lost!
These cushy wannabe heroes have come to the fight too late. Luthen, ever the Alliance Accelerationist, concludes that the Gore are perfectly cast for a starring role on the galactic stage, not as soldiers, but as victims. Here lies Gorman. Here lies an opportunity to expose the true face of the Empire, a war machine building a war machine, a world devastator like nothing on planet Earth. It won't be the first Imperial genocide. It will be the first time humans in the Core, who have assumed the Empire exists for their benefit, realize that they, too, are expendable to its institutions.
The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
Who Are You is Raroe Noa Iho, to recap. It shows a few events on one planet. An extraordinarily tight lens for this stage in the show. The ISB intentionally provoke a police riot to bait in the Gorman front and wipe them out. This senseless slaughter of our brave boys in white demands a blank check for the Imperial Army. The Empire can deny most civilian deaths and justify the rest as exterminating terrors. They'll get away with it too. After all, Cass and Malshi pledged to spend the truth about Narkina 3 years ago. This season casually reminds us that the PORD not only remains in place, but is being used against Gormans, enslaving survivors to build a weapon of world destruction literally fueled by their genocide. None of this is a surprise. Who Are You is no mere reheat of Rick's Road. This could never compare to the stirring you feel when Marva's hologram utters that loathing, or when that IED arcs over the crowd. There is none of the wild uncertainty, the sense of events spitting out of control one step after another. Instead, the prior 4 episodes finally craft this environment to elicit an entirely different experience. What is Parmo's purpose? Chapter 7, Sept Diables. We were welcomed to Rick's for a full season. The show's commitment to immersion ran so deep that we got the authentic stranger on public transport won't stop talking to you experience. The planet is designed to invite you in and fill you with warmth. Stone and sky has made it into my vocabulary. I loved Brasso dearly. I can't stop talking and thinking about Rick's Road and hearing that slow dirge, loud when the camera's on them, quiet as everybody else moves backstage. Parmo is a pack of space Frenchies, one of whom iced the companion. You maniac! They don't do industrial labor side by side, hanging up their gloves for the next day's shift. They craft fine kakahu. Really, the critters do a lot of the work. As an arachnophobe, the choice of the spider as the proud symbol of gore culture got us off on a bad foot from the start.
And it turns out, spiders are not the most
stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking
thing in Gorman. Doctor?
Deep substrate foliated Gormans.
I mean, the amount of time spent pondering Gorman, this grubby little rock, is sadly astonishing.
And if the civvies weren't bad enough, the Gorman front is calculated to irritate and frustrate you as much as they do Cassian. They're not just the wrong people in the wrong place at the wrong time trying their best, they refuse to understand Andor's warnings, the experience of seeing his own community blasted down in the Huarahi. They chafe at the wisdom of their hardened Alliance counterparts and waste a perfectly good life.
Damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Where Brasso won my heart with his clever compassion from his very first scene, Lizine lost me with pithy, shallow cliches that solved nothing. Him and Mon should adopt a co-leadership model. Just as Syril serves as foil to Andor serves as foil to Jin, Parmo is the foil to Rix. Events frequently rhyme in Andor, not as echoes of the generation before, as between the prequels and originals and sequels, but between characters' own choices and situations. Where Cassian began the last season as a reserved scoundrel with a heart of gold, motivated to find his sister and protect his mother and put a ring on Bix. And
like the texture of Yaba is something I need to discover. Yaba, come on, touching his, like his belly, like, oh, I was so tempted. Yaba,
he has become compassionate and persuasive, dedicated to his cause and his people, but ruthless in the moment. The complicated savior his mother and then Luthen once had to be for him. Across both seasons, Episode 3 showcases denizens of Ferrix harassed by Imperial intrusion, Episode 6 highlights a tense rebel raid spearheaded by Sintra and Val, and Who Are You rhymes with Rick's Road. Once again, against the wishes of his compatriots, Cassian drops into a hot zone not to organize an uprising, but simply to take care of one individual. Once more, the Empire prepares a trap. This time, though, it's targeted not at Cassian, but an entire planet. This time, violence against the crowds is not an unintended consequence of events spinning out of control. It's the entire point. And this time, anti-imperial sentiment doesn't catch its targets off guard. It has been intentionally fermented by the Empire, and the feeling's mutual. Even Syril, so often too focused to remember his peripheral vision, catches on to the condemnatory tone of the pro-imperial Whakatu Papaho.
Local insurgents spread rumours through the night and have organised this. And here we are this morning with rumours of a general strike and highly volatile insurrection you see behind me now.
The show tries to make us feel the Maya Pay Brigade scenes are messy and disorganised, to demonstrate what the Maya Pay Brigade really are. The show succeeds in making us feel the Gore are arrogant and foolish, to demonstrate the plight, the sympathy deficit that the Empire has subjected the Gore to. What is the purpose of the Gore? Chapter 8. Huitièmement. Il est fâcheux que les visitants de la force ont traversé la côte des Mômes pour se rendre au palo de Sainte-Marie-l'Égyptienne. As the crowd breaks into stirring song, a single franc drops. These young people and their affectations are so specifically French, because the entire setting of Gorman is drawing on a foundational text of Western literature, one which, by an incredible streak of luck, I had read all 655,478 words of mere months earlier, all for the sole purpose of cracking a single informed pun in an April Fool's video.
I told this brand new theory of mine, Jean Valjean.
Everything about Gorman speaks the language of Victor Hugo's legendary epic, what Upton Sinclair described as one of the half-dozen greatest novels of the world, Les Miserables. Let me see how quickly I can, of those 2,783 pages, recap the relevant ones.
I'm glad you asked. Oh.
We already did that one.
Oh, Carabast. Someone get the Gen Alpha 17 intern in here.
Ain't that her right there?
Hello again. Omega. From earlier?
Yeah, whatever. Listen, can you whip up a meme edit real quick? I've got a schedule to meet. Release thief Jean Valjean reoffends, only to be enriched and reformed by a bishop, but his former guard inspector Javert, obsessive to a fault, suspects his false identity. Valjean tries to protect the ill and impoverished Fantine and her daughter Cosette. Valjean is rearrested by Javert, and Fantine dies. Valjean fakes his death and escapes to rescue the unsuspecting Cosette. Student Marius and his friends are preparing a revolution against an oppressive and uncaring government. Javert stirs up a bunch of hornets in his relentless pursuit of the supposedly dead Valjean. Cosette and Marius fall in love despite Valjean's dislike of the latter. The students mount their protest and set up barricades in the city centre. Javert is exposed as an undercover spy. The army attacks the barricades, winning the upper hand. Valjean comes to their defense, promises to execute Javert, and, having his longtime Hoananaare at gunpoint, instead frees him. Valjean spirits the badly injured Marius away from the massacre of revolutionaries, and encounters Javert again. Javert lets Valjean drop Marius off for treatment, and they agree that Javert will shortly take him into custody, surely a death sentence. Javert instead walks away, pens a list of recommendations for the Paris Police Department, and throws himself fatally into the Seine. Marius heals, the heroic trio reconcile, Cosette marries, and Valjean dies. The number of parallels to Andor is astonishing. I count Waru in their overview alone. 1. A thief looking for a quick score is enlightened by a wise man who gives him a treasure. 2. A cop becomes obsessed with him. 3. The thief tries to care for a mother who passes from illness and is left protecting a younger woman. 4. The thief goes to prison a second time and dives into the ocean to escape. 5. The cop antagonizes a bunch of other actors and gets people besides his nemesis arrested. 6. The cop is exposed as an undercover spy amongst the revolutionaries. 7. Naive and overconfident young Frenchies plan a revolution against the admonishments of the old, framed around barricades in the centre of town, and are killed almost to a man. 8. An injured revolutionary escapes with his newfound love. Look at Enza and Dylan. See how their urgent and eager promises to find each other evoke Marius and Cosette as easily as Wilman and Dreena's and those friends building the Taki-Taki. Who are you is where the show reveals its hand. Unlike the hard-won happy ending of Les Miserables, wrapped up in lessons about morals and faith, Andor's Gorman arc is blood-soaked in tragedy. If Caro and Lizzie aren't dead by day's end, they are guaranteed the fate of Olaf and Kino. The Empire is even more violent and oppressive than the enemy of the liberty, equality, and fraternity we enjoy today. The jaws of the trap closing is no surprise, but the episode shocks you anyway. Each step towards the brink is portrayed with such dread and more kino as to still provoke you. To get on your feet, slam your palms on the coffee table, yell at the television to get out of there. And then 30 seconds later, thank the Force that Caro can at least at last see the vision. Caro, old and cautious, can at last see what Andor is trying to warn him about. If the revolutionaries put too much faith in their weapons and cause. If the Empire are done treating even core humans with kid gloves. Even Imperial staff are suppressed for their own safety, sent to hang out with the killer robots in case they get any funny ideas. We can see just how thin the line is between contributing to the Empire
We had each other and they left us alone.
and being sacrificed as a contribution.
We kept the trade lanes open and they left us alone.
Both Syril and Gorman made the choice to continue to work with the Empire,
We took their money and ignored them.
even after it showed how willing it was to discard them.
We kept their engines churning and the moment they pulled away, we forgot them.
And they are paying the price anyway.
But we were sleeping.
Some of these parallels may be coincidences, others are simply time-worn tropes,
I've been sleeping.
or woven into our cultural fabric.
I've been turning away from a truth I wanted not to face.
The waving of flags around plaza barricades is bound to produce Les Mis comparisons.
There is a wound that won't heal at the center of the galaxy.
But my firmest conviction remains a solution to a question of purpose.
There is a darkness reaching like rust into everything around us.
To my question, what is Cyril's purpose?
We let it grow and now it's here.
Syril Khan is Inspector Javert.
It's here and it's not visiting anymore.
When the penny dropped for me, I told my TV that he had just thrown himself in the river 10 seconds before he threatened to throw ISB supervisor Ded Ramiro out of the Matapi.
It's here and it's not visiting anymore.
To take a concept so bold as to cast a pale, pasty imitation of Patrick Bateman as a new generation's Inspector Javert.
It wants to stay.
In Star Wars, the sci-fi franchise with the gorilla teddy bears and the frog clown general is unbelievably ambitious.
The Empire is a disease that thrives in
And it works.
It is never more alive than when we sleep.
So I ask you a third time, and don't deny me again.
If I could do it again, I'd wake up early.
What is Cyril's purpose?
These bastards.
Chapter 9. Les Neuvième Siècle de l'Enfer.
As I was booting up the episode, I realised that the Empire could surely never let such a lackey live free with the knowledge of what they really did to the Cour. That Mātauranga would destroy the justification for these murders and wake up the rest of the rich human core to the danger they were in. The ISB would have given Axis everything he wanted. He was doomed just as surely as Luthen and Lonnie. All three condemned in service to keeping the circle tight. That doom becomes clearer and clearer over the course of the episode. And yet, his ultimate fate is the true twist here. Deirdre can't afford to trust him with the real plan precisely because she needs to keep the circle tight. When Syril at last realizes the nightmare about to unfold, something so far past his tiny imagination, he confronts and strangles Deirdre. Her confession is something that not even the Gorman front were willing to believe. That this plan is authorized by a higher power than he ever could have realized. Not Bloy, not Kaido, not Deirdre, not Partagast, not Yularen, not Krennic, not Vader, not Tarkin, but the galactic father protector, the ultimate authority figure, the only emperor the galaxy has ever known. In Syril's eyes, this annihilates the legitimacy of the system. No longer can he employ the excuse of bad boyars around the leadership. Now he realizes the Empire is rotten to its core. He believes in enforcing order and protecting people. Now he realizes that the higher-ups only care about applying brute force to remake the galaxy in their image, however many have to die for their sick fantasies. He's a small C conservative, and he's just now realizing that he's been carrying water through his adult life for a fascist revolution that's been building steam for his entire life. The taunakitanga is right in front of him. Deirdre doesn't show whatever hurt or betrayal or guilt she feels. That this creep is an actual threat to her life. That somehow Syril Khan is not evil enough for her level of hell. She is excited and aggressive, a disturbing comment on their deeply toxic relationship. The episode's purpose is to make you feel the character's realization, the horrifying realization that this day is over and won for the Empire, and all that is left is the killing. The twist is that there is no twist, no Deus Ex Machina, no savior.
No one is getting out!
It inflicts that knowledge on you, and it inflicts that on Syril Khan. Syril, without whom the Gorman front could never have proceeded past the stage of a glorified debate club. Syril, who must now face Karo, the one other member of the front who understands what is coming. Cyril's internal conflict is at last externalized. He can no longer look away when he has to face a wise old authority figure, shouting his total and entirely correct disgust. But it's too late. Nobody even cares that this venerable patrician working to save lives is tossed down in the street by an imp bureaucrat. The Gore have a date with destiny to meet. All of Cyril's fanaticism about order and law, about protecting the many from the few, has led him to this. The realization that the Empire has stretched peacekeeping to its breaking point and has discarded this answer in favor of a final solution. And it breaks him. As his frozen mind asks himself, his imperialism in total conflict with his desire to protect and serve the people, his hunger for praise from superiors, he now realizes are monsters. What is his purpose? Chapter 10. Dix Secondes. Syril has already begun to ask himself this important question when he lays eyes on those Wolfenstein-esque droids and wonders how they could possibly be necessary. As he chokes his Nazi lover and walks out already half a dead man, walks out into a crowd he knows is about to be massacred, walks out into yet another PTSD attack and yet another puahua of chaos in town. He is lost.
Lost!
Utterly adrift. And then he tackles Andor. Maybe he does it to save Deirdre. Maybe he doesn't even realize who the rebel is aiming at, but he definitely does it because he despises Cassian. This is the payoff for 20 episodes of tension, 20 episodes of Syril Khan hunting the criminal who killed 2 co-workers on Primor, obsessed with bringing him to justice. They throw everything on the line in this no-holds-barred beatdown. And in the end, our hero, a highly experienced, skilled rebel, loses to this weirdo. Syril finally gets a win. He finally did something that mattered. He has Andor at his mercy. And then Cassian realizes that his unknown assailant, frozen in the agonies of conflict, has given him a second to live. And he meets Cyril's frantic, broken face, for whom this is so clearly deeply personal, with what he does not even realize is the perfect response.
Who are you?
When first asked in Rogue One,
Who are you?
that question carries the salience of family. The Ursos are somebodies. Galen Erso is the Empire's Oppenheimer. This is squarely in the dynastic tradition of Star Wars since the original twist. It suggests something mythical about bloodlines, that Jin's birth destines her to complete Galen's work, just as Luke destines him to fulfill his mother's dying wish. The Andors aren't somebodies. The Khans aren't somebodies. Cassian could be anybody else's child, and although that would shape him differently, his choices would be his own. This is a different mode of Star Wars, less mythological, more material, and requires a different understanding entirely of the question.
Who are you? I've never really known. What are you?
The question isn't, can I see your character sheet and lore, please? Ooh, tastefully thin, subtle Narkina white colouring. Oh my god, it even has a watermark. The question, who are you, rarely asks is, what is your purpose, and how does it involve executing me? The fact that Andor needs to ask completely exposes how absurd Cyril's story is. He has burned his life to destroy somebody who doesn't even know who he is. And Syril has given Andor that second to ask.
Congratulations on that.
He has sacrificed everything to kill Cassian. And now he can't fulfill his one goal.
Who were stealing Imperial supplies.
The criminals and murderers he has always defined as his enemy, even as he moved amongst them. Today, they are the victims of the biggest crime, the greatest mass murder he has ever known in his life. The people he has moved amongst all his life, the ones at war with Cassian Andor. How can he be one of them? How can he help them anymore? Because he helped. He helped make all of this happen. That was his real win, the thing he did that truly mattered. This fanatic from the top rope cannot let Dedra die. But he can't keep being part of the killing of Ho-Ho either. To enforce the law is to commit a capital crime. It is an imitation across the decades of the moment that Javert realizes he cannot solve his problem by the means known to him. He cannot let a violent lawbreaker walk, but he can no longer render justice either. No Imperial ever can again. Not after today. And Syril is the only man in the plaza honest enough not to deny it. There is only one way out.
He knows me.
What is the purpose of Who Are You? Chapter 11, La Onzième Heure. With the central character thrust complete, let's step back and take a breather. So many details in Who Are You intertwine to create an unforgettable episode. And I want to celebrate them before we conclude on the central character. 1. When the shooting starts on Ferrix, nobody is prepared and the violence is wildly disproportionate. This crowd is packed with armed assailants in between all the panicked civilians, creating a completely different action set piece. It is all the staging of a typical back-and-forth shootout, but an inevitable putanga. 2. The most sympathetic Gorman character mounts a heroic sacrifice, and he accidentally ruins the rebellion's only chance to land any blow back on the Empire today. And yet, you'll see later how the Force works in mysterious ways. 3. Andor was sent to the hellhole that transformed him into a rebel by one enforcement droid. Now the rebellion is strong enough to take another down, and going forward, that droid, K2SO, will be the difference maker time and again in avenging Gorman. 4. Dedra attempts to pass culpability for this act onto Captain Kaido, who is having precisely none of it. He's happy to carry out the killings. But what matters to him is that they both know their place in the hierarchy. And there's my favourite choice of all, that Dedra chooses to intentionally deploy Kakariki riot police out into the plaza. Let me count the ways in which this decision is intelligent, every one of which enriches the episode further. 5. Their uniform exposes them. If they wore stormtrooper armor, there's a much higher chance when the ISP makes their move that the target doesn't go down, and then the whole plot spirals out of control. 6. They are inexperienced and lack macro binoculars. They are far less likely to correctly identify the source of the firing, and thus spoil the whole plot. 7. They are nervous and unblooded. They are far more likely, as soon as one of them goes down, to forget about beating a retreat in good order and start shooting into the crowd.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang! Well, I don't see so good, so I missed.
And it'll be the easiest sell in the galaxy that, under pressure,
Then they ran away. I ran after them. Okay. Bang! Try to shoot them in the back.
it would be unreasonable to expect them to hold their fire. What were they supposed to do? 8. They are bad at taking out threats and worse at protecting themselves. The media will run up a severe toll of Imperial dead and make out the Gorman front to be more dangerous and organised than they really are. 9. Their faces are bare, they are young, and they are vulnerable and scared. They are perfectly cast, not as soldiers, but as victims. Their dead bodies will cover the news floor to ceiling, and there won't be a dry eye in an Imperial household. 10. These green recruits were not already present. They were brought from elsewhere. They've surely been summoned from a multitude of worlds to maximize the number of regions who can clamour to claim their own martyrs and rally against the perfidious Gore, offering up new bodies to replace these cheap investments easily disposed of. 11. All Imperial troops in Pamo will take part in this operation, whether they sit behind the barricades or not. It does not matter that the riot police are the least efficient killers in uniform. The same number of Gormans will be dead by day's end. I yelled, "Oh my god!" and the barricades flew across the plaza. And I never expected to weep as I watched Gore die whichever way they ran. Momentous realization settles on your shoulders. That this is when the flowers of Paris flock to the barricades, and all of them die. Except Cassian. What is Andor's purpose? Chapter 12. Messager de Minuit. He has, yet again, failed. Not because of some personal fault, but because he's only one man against an empire. Dedra may be devastated by the loss of her little Mew Mew, but she remains in charge of the Gorman genocide, and when they are ash and bone, she can pick up the torch of the hunt for Axis and Andor. So why is he here? What did he mean to that dead child of a dead father who told him
Rebellions are built on hope?
And what did he mean to his nemesis who chose to spare him, whose Kofaya will weep for him now? What is the answer Cassian has been waiting for, hunting for, since he said goodbye to Melshi? What did Luthen and Marva and Bix and Tetahonga see in it? Wilman, Marius answers, an answer that Claire will affirm a year later when she answers, what is Gorman's purpose? An answer that could never have reached the rebellion if Thela had not armed himself and Syril had not tackled Andor. Luthen has proved himself capable of inflaming the Empire's reaction past all reason. If the people know they'll all die long before it's over, they will give Te Kakari their all.
We're gonna die here, or in the next place. Play it how you want, but I'm gonna assume I'm already dead, and take it from there.
And I would rather die trying to take them down than giving them what they want.
But they don't know. The Empire has the power, has the control. It creates its own narratives to make people accept and forget atrocities. The galaxy needs somebody to spread the word, to tear down the facade of the Empire, and build rebellion on hope. And that is Andor's purpose.
Tell people what happened here, Cass.
He's a
the
messenger. There's some place he needs to be. Maybe you're the place he needs to be.